Hi everyone, it is Alexis
and Lilian.
and what are we doing today?
Today we're gonna do a video talking about weird things that Canadians do, and I've been looking forward to doing this one for a while.
Yes, she has a lot of things to say about Canadians, and in light of the topic, I'm wearing my Canadian tuxedo.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land.
By the way, we just got a letter. We just got a letter. Lilian has no idea what this is. Comment below if you know what I'm talking about. Today we got a package from the tube of the U, and it is our, add drum roll, silver plate belt.
Thank you so much for everyone who subscribed, and on that note, if you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, please do.
I feel like I'm at like the Grammys being like, I like to thank my family who have always supported me. Triggered.
So if you're new to this channel, who do we have in the lineup? Yes, we have the Canadian,
A.
and we have the non-Canadian. I'm German, but grew up in Italy, so let's say the European. So I have been living in Canada on and off for about 7 years now. I feel like a lot of the other videos and articles about like weird things that Canadians do are always from the American perspective. And a lot of times they always just talk about the same things, such as
Always saying sorry.
Sorry.
so there's a few other stereotypes and things that always get talked about. But in this video, we're gonna go a little bit deeper, more into the personality and the attitudes of the Canadians. What's some other Canadian stuff that people always talk about? Ketchup chips.
Ooh, I think they're good. Like if they're there at the party, I'm snacking on them.
We have the famous milk bags, which are only a thing in Ontario though.
Yeah, I remember when I lived in Manitoba for a bit, they had like jugs of milk. And I said, oh, like we have bags of milk in Ontario. And she was like, bags of milk? I think she was imagining like a grocery bag of like milk.
Like fill it up yourself. Or of course, the famous maple syrup.
I have to say that is one proud thing that I like about Canada.
Curling.
Curling. Oh my God, that's such a stupid sport.
Fun fact, it actually comes from Scotland, but the Scots brought it to Canada when they emigrated.
They're like, you can have this
It's the
sport.
most established in Canada now. But the national sport is actually, it's not hockey or ice hockey.
Oh,
as
it's
we call
not?
it in Europe. No, it's the thing that you play.
Oh, lacrosse.
Yeah, she played lacrosse. It's always interesting when Alexis as the Canadian comes to be with my family. We're like, tell us more about these things. Tell us about how you play lacrosse. Or tell us about the time that you went to school on a snowmobile. Fun fact, because she used to live in Manitoba.
I lived in a small town called Stonewall, but I also lived in Winnipeg, which is like the capital of
Big
Manitoba.
city in Manitoba.
Oh, we call it Winterpeg because it's so cold. So cold that your nose boogies even freeze.
Oh my God. Or of course the whole aboot thing.
Okay, we don't say aboot.
Oh, sure, that's what Canadian hospitality's all about.
Actually, Alexis is useless when it comes to pronunciation because she doesn't hear things. She calls bagels bagels. And she doesn't hear the difference.
Now I'm
Bagels,
always insecure
bagels.
when people are talking and they ask about bagels. I'm like, the round thing with the hole in the middle. Not donuts, the other one. What about taboozin'?
Yes, I love this.
So, taboozin' is when, I'm gonna give all the kids bad influences here. You go out, find a snowy hill, bring your toboggan, which is a sled, and go down it drunk.
It sounds dangerous.
It is dangerous.
Is this something that the Canadian youth does?
Yeah.
Like in high school, you were like, let's go to boozing. Nice snow out today. Hold on, let me park my snowmobile. Also, by the way, where do you park your snowmobile?
They have like designated areas.
No, this keeps getting better. Before we dig a little bit deeper into the personality and the mindset and attitude of these fine people, we have an early Christmas present for you. It is a free trial of a Skillshare premium membership.
Thank you so much, Skillshare, for sponsoring yet another video of ours. What is Skillshare? So Skillshare is an online learning platform.
So if you want to advance your skills in, say, illustration, photography, any sort of creative venture, look no further. It has short classes that you can fit into a busy schedule. It's a no ads format. We've really been taking advantage of it. So a class on there that I'm really excited about checking out is Creative Writing, How to Craft Personal Essays with Impact, taught by Roxanne Gay, who is a writer. Actually, when I was a child, I always wanted to become a writer. I tried writing a few books and never finished them. You know what? I should get back into writing.
It is less than $10 a month for an annual membership, and if you click the link below, then you'll get a free trial of Skillshare Premium.
So let's dig a little bit deeper into our dear Canadian friends. First of all, let's talk about, which is also a stereotype, the politeness of Canadians.
No.
If you like, you can have all my money and my leg.
Canadians are polite, for sure. Are they nice? Yes, but I would say the same thing of Americans. Because both countries have the culture of like being polite, having the attitude, the customer is always right. When I go to a bank here in Canada, except my most recent experience, people are probably gonna be nice and wish me a nice day. If I go to a bank in Berlin, there's a 9 out of 10 chance that I'm gonna be yelled at. I went to the bank here with all these coins and I didn't roll them up in the thing that you're supposed to roll them up in. And the lady was so nice. She was like, no worries, I'm just gonna do it for you. And she complimented my shirt. I was like, Canadians are the best!
Make fun of the Great White North all you want. It's the best country in the world.
However, it has a bit of the principle of politeness over honesty.
Ooh.
Politeness is so ingrained and valued within the culture that people would rather be dishonest than put themselves into an uncomfortable situation because it's not polite or nice to say a certain thing.
Okay.
Here you meet people, you know, you think you're hitting it off, they're like, love you by the end of the night. People love things very easily here. Oh, we should totally like go to the Taylor Swift concert next week together. Next week comes around, I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to the Taylor Swift concert with my awesome new Canadian friend. Let's make it Justin Bieber to make it more Canadian. And then they're like, oh yeah, actually I'm busy, you know?
Yeah.
And that happens a lot, and I've actually confronted some of my Canadian friends about it, and I was like, what's the deal with saying like, oh, we should do that? And they're like, yeah, that doesn't mean that you're actually gonna do it. It's just like a way of being nice. It's just like how you have conversation. We should totally hang out. Let's hang out. What?
But it's like, okay, like I have in my mind that I'm gonna be hanging out with this person. But when it comes to like the day before, I always ask like, is it still gonna happen? Like,
which brings me to the next point, flakiness. Here it's a thing that you made plans, even like 3 days before or something, and then the same day always comes a text, are we still on for today? And I have a story about that as well.
Okay.
Because I had a German friend who was living here in Toronto for a while. Shout out Michaela if you're watching this. So she was gonna go on a date with this guy, and then the day of the date, he texted her, are we still on for today? And she got like pretty offended and like confused at that because she was like, why the hell would we not still be on?
yeah, but I think maybe it's just to like check, like, okay, like, I don't know, maybe something came up for you.
I know.
Or like maybe like you forgot and you didn't realize, like, okay, it's today.
But see, that just reflects that like in the culture, it's like a plan is still not a set plan, but it's always a tentative plan. Whereas in other cultures, it's like a plan is a plan. You can cancel it, but I feel like it's also kind of less accepted.
Yeah, and I feel like it makes it a little more special in a way. It's like, okay, like you can't just be throwing all these plans all over the place, you know what I mean? It's like, so you're a little more careful with your plans.
I would love to hear everyone's thought on this. I'm sure it's not just a thing in Canada, or maybe it's just a thing in Toronto, and I feel like you kind of get used to it. I also just always ask now, are we still on for today? So another weird thing is that Canada is technically a bilingual country, right? In Quebec, French is the main language. First of all, you notice this also when you're abroad. People from outside of Canada assume that all Canadians speak French.
Yeah.
And if a country is bilingual, they should at least speak English and French, right? But it's like such a small percentage of Canadians that actually speak French fluently outside of Quebec. It's pretty sad. It's the fault of the educational system that not everyone has to, from beginning to end, learn French.
Yeah, from kindergarten to grade 3, I was in a French immersion school, which is like, I feel like that's where I picked up a lot of like the small things I learned. Then once you get to high school, you can choose, like you have to take French in grade 9, and then in grade 10, 11, and 12, you don't have to take it. You can choose to continue to take it, but it's not mandatory. Which is so stupid.
And I feel like most people just opt out. And I feel like it should be mandatory all the way through, because so many people afterwards are like, I should have just stuck through with it. I would have way more job chances, and yeah.
Yeah, and I also just like wish I knew French.
Yeah, it just helps so much just knowing another language. And it opens up other languages, makes it so much easier.
It makes it easier to learn other languages then.
This one I find pretty interesting.
What?
So I feel like, and I'm interested what people think if this is actually a thing, but I feel like people here are more secretive, or like they think it's a very private thing, and maybe it is, to talk about finances. So like to talk openly about how much do you make, you know, how much do you spend, and all of that. In Germany, when I had a job and when I was talking to my other friends, European friends, everyone was like, how much are you making? And it's like, not in like, oh, I want to know because I want to know who is making more money, but it's just to be like, okay, like maybe I should be asking for more money, or like what's normal like in the industry, or like at my age, you know. It's just like interesting, especially when we first got our first full-time job.
I think it's more of like, you don't want to be rude. Like if someone's like, oh, like I'm making this much, and then they maybe feel like it's really low, so they have like this embarrassed feeling, and then you're kind of like getting them to be vulnerable.
So it's the politeness thing again.
Maybe.
But I've just heard from several people here that they're like, oh, I don't talk about my salary openly, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay,
really?
that's fine.
So, that's random to
Yeah,
say.
no, but I feel like it's more of a taboo here to talk openly about that.
That's
which
weird.
is,
I think it's also a little more personal when you ask someone about their savings. Like, how much savings do you have?
well, of course, that's like, what? Are you my mortgage agent or whatever you call those people? I don't have a mortgage. I don't know how it works. Oh, the thing where Canadians, when they go traveling, put like a Canadian flag on their backpack or their bags just to make it clear that they're Canadian and not American.
For the next week, I'm from Canada.
Because they're afraid to be mistaken for Americans, which yes, do have a very bad reputation.
Don't you think it's so interesting that Americans are so patriotic? You know, they're so proud of their country.
Don't mess with Texas! Shuck it all, losers!
Canadians are like, I don't want to be that.
Yeah, Canadians are patriotic because they're proud not to be American, which is funny.
It's like, what?
The thing that drives me crazy is that Canadians don't have much of like the revolutionary spirit, like resistance, changing the status quo. So for example, Toronto has one of the worst public transit systems ever.
And it says like the best.
Yeah,
in North
and
America.
yesterday I read an article that said the TTC is the pride of Toronto. I'm like,
Hold on a second.
for who? No, it's like the disgrace of Toronto. That's why I left Toronto. I was participating in this protest against transit fees going up every year and there not being enough trains. I was handing out flyers to be like, join the movement, and people were like, obviously some people were like, yeah, I support this, but other people were like, oh, it's fine, and like, no, I don't want to participate in that. And then prices went up again. I was like, why is no one going on the street with fire and be like, we don't want this? In general, I feel like in Europe people have way more like the rebellious spirit, and I'm sure in other countries as well, because maybe it's politeness again, but people here are more like,
We're just like, we just don't want
fine.
conflict. We're like, you know what? Like, I don't want to be screaming and yelling.
that's not polite. We want to be nice.
It's true though, if we were actually using our voices and like saying something,
Yeah,
then
you could make a big difference. But it's also because Canada hasn't had like any major conflict where like a revolution has had to happen. It's been like pretty smooth sailing. People aren't really used to that. And obviously, I mean, Canadians are very outspoken. It's like Canada is probably one of the most politically correct countries in the world. All right, that was quite a lot.
it was. Like I'm sitting here like a Canadian, like
Obviously, Canadians are lovely people, but these are just some of the things that I've noticed. And I'm sure a lot of other people have noticed as well. We would love to hear your thoughts on, as a Canadian, does this resonate? Are you deeply offended? Was I not being polite? As a non-Canadian,
you weren't being Canadian enough.
have you also noticed these things? Well, thank you so much. Und wir sehen uns beim nächsten Mal.
What she said. And thank you so much Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Click the link below to get a free subscription of the premium membership. You won't regret it, I promise.
Tschüss.
Cheers.
Do we need to bring your face closer, babe? More forward. Yeah, perfect. Okay, stay there. Just don't be Jim Carrey for a minute.